Hello, everybody. Well, hello, everybody. Take two. Welcome to Morning Call. Hello. It's Friday, last day of the week, the 29th of March, 2019. So this is going to be the last. I'm Fab from Hamburg. Hello, by the way. So this is going to be the last show for this month. And for a little while, because I am taking a few days off, I think. I was debating on what to do on April the 1st, and I'm completely cutting myself off from doing any journalism work for April the 1st and probably the next 2 or 3 days as well, which just makes things a lot easier for me. And I can use some holiday. I'm going on I've been at so many events, and I'm going on another journalism event at the Spiegel online headquarters on the weekend, and I just need a break. I've had it. Look at my eyes, man. It's like that Battlestar Galactica episode I just rewatched where they can't sleep. So I'm going to take a few days off there. So you won't get any tech news the beginning of next week. I might be back on Thursday, but I can't promise. I might be back on Friday or something. So, you know. I'm a freelancer. I'm not quite sure how long my holiday is going to be currently. It's basically when I run out of money. So, but I'll be back. And I noticed yesterday's show was the 50th show of Morning Call, which I guess goes really quickly when you're doing a show a day or a weekday. It's pretty awesome. Anyway. You're here probably for some tech news, so let's do that. Let's get you into the tech news. And the first item I have on the docket concerns April the 1st, because Microsoft, so The Verge has gotten hold of an internal Microsoft memo where a Microsoft marketing chief, Chris Caposella, has said, no April Fool's jokes. No April Fool's jokes. They're sad. We don't need them. So Microsoft kind of doesn't want April Fool's jokes, which I'm kind of behind. I mean, so this is the perspective I'm coming from. Of course, I always used to enjoy April Fool's jokes, which I think you can if you're just the public. But if you're a journalist, it's just, I don't want to bitch. Like, journalists bitch too much. Talk too much shop and then bitch, but it's not fun. Let's put it that way. If you're a news journalist, this is not a good day. Also, it's like, there's Oceania is a bit before that, and then it's basically 2 or 3 days that are crap. So it's so interesting. Microsoft saying, this is basically from a PR perspective causing us problems because it creates unwanted news attention and stuff. And The Verge obviously doesn't like April Fool's Day either. Them also being journalists, they're kind of hoping this Microsoft is leading the way with tech companies who will maybe pick that up next year or something. We'll see. I'm not so sure about that. I mean, there are some good April Fool's jokes now and then, but like the most are just mediocre. And I've full disclosure here, I've done some myself, I was at Heise. I wrote some myself. So I guess I'm part of the problem. Next story. I was talking about the 5G auction that is running in Germany, and it's netting the government quite a nice profit. The collective bids on these different frequency blocks have now reached 1 billion euros. So it looks like the lower frequency bands are the ones everybody wants, because I guess they have higher range. And this is mostly, it's been expected that lots of this is just going to be used for not necessarily for the public, but for like Industry 4.0, air quotes here, big air quotes. Camera, Industry 4.0. For big factory floors and buildings and campuses and stuff like that. Interestingly, I talked about how this is like basically the big players, Telecom, Vodafone, and Telefonica, and then there's Drillisch, 1&1, United Internet basically, and then the newcomer, and they're already flagging. Apparently they bid on some frequency blocks and then rescinded the bid, which still means, according to the rules, if nobody else bids on those, like if somebody else bids lower, they own it, like they get it for that price. But if nobody bids on it, they'll have to pay. And the theory is now that the other three are kind of using that to, I don't know, not ruin, but like kind of mess with United Internet. Quite interesting. This whole thing is expected to fetch 3 to 5 billion euros for the German state, which I guess is a nice income from them. They can put into, I don't know, building more tanks or something. It's not like they're gonna give that to the poor people. No, I'm not bitter. Interesting story on the Asus thing. I talked about that Shadowhammer attack that Kaspersky was talking about, and where basically they owned infrastructure at Asus and then changed their update routine to just ship malware. And I was like, this is so sophisticated. This has to be like a state-sponsored attack. But it now looks like there's a security researcher who came forward and talked to TechCrunch, and says he found in GitHub repositories by Asus. So Asus did the classic mistake, credentials, like developer credentials in GitHub repositories. And so in this case, he found passwords to an email address by Asus, which was like an internal build system email where like the new builds for like their updater and stuff like that were posted. Now you think like, well, what can you do with that? And he was like, well, I could have probably gotten into the network. You get access to that email address. You got all the paths of the internal network where the important stuff is stored. You probably have all the email addresses of the people who are doing like development. You can then do a very targeted phishing attack where you send them a fake build report or something from this email address with something attached, then own their system, and then you get access. And this is kind of like how TechCrunch and everybody else is now speculating that this update function was owned, because this whole email, the researcher discovering these emails and email addresses and passwords in GitHub were just at the time when Asus was hacked, and they were in there for a year or something. So kind of bad, but happens to everybody. I just recently noticed that GitLab now has a function where you can like it's part of their paid service, but they have like this thing when you submit something to a repo, it goes through and looks for like, I don't know, Amazon AWS keys, stuff like that. By the way, if you hear a thrumming, this is not the warp drive overheating. This is the washing machine is going. Had some bad timing with the washing machine, and it's just over there. So, but it should be it should get filtered out by all my compression, noise gate, fancy schmancy things here. Yeah, so happens to everybody. So maybe this wasn't a state-sponsored attack. I mean, still that 600 MAC addresses that were targeted specifically still sounds like... sound is on point as always, as Jonathan MH. I'm actually not happy with my sound. I think it's... I picked this up from my mate Dan, who's a sound engineer. And I think if you're a sound engineer, you always want to improve stuff. And I have that sickness now. But thank you. I take that as a compliment. All this expensive gear has to be for something. I'm always saying like, oh, it's like $300 microphone and then like all this gear. But I bought this like 10 years ago. I got some really good value out of that bloody microphone. And then all the other stuff. I bought like, when I started this podcast, like Linux Outlaws, now, 2007? I bought this, 2006, so 13 years ago, I bought this like mixer. It's really cheap, Behringer Xenix mixer. And I'm like, it's Behringer, I bought in the thing sound engineers always say about Behringer. It's like, it's going to break. And then, in a few years, and then I can just, then I have some experience with podcasting, and then I can just justify buying a new one, a better one, a fancy one. Well, it hasn't broken. It's not giving me the chance to buy something more fancy. Anyway, speaking of security, Mozilla is now testing. So Mozilla did a thing with Firefox recently. By the way, I love this Red Panda teaser image here on Golem. So Mozilla did a thing with Firefox a while ago where they were saying we're not using the Windows certificate store. Windows 10, for example, has its own certificate store, and Mozilla was like, we don't want to trust Microsoft, we'll have our own. And they had that for quite a while. Like the Mozilla Network Services have their own certificate store, and for quite a while Firefox was only using that and ignoring the Windows one. So sometimes you could have, with Chrome and Firefox, you could have, like with one you'd have a certificate error, not with the other. And when I was at Heise Security, there was some cases where readers were asking like, why is this? Why I have this weird behavior? And it's often because they have different certificate stores. But anyway, Mozilla is now going to, in certain cases, honor the Windows certificate store because they were having problems with antivirus software that scans SSL traffic. And to do that, of course, it needs to, Kaspersky, when it wants to, for example, wants to scan SSL traffic, it needs to insert its own SSL certificate. So it can just terminate the connection, look into it, and then re-encrypt to whatever server you're going, and look in there for malware. And this wasn't working because they couldn't insert it into the Mozilla certificate store. And you could fix that by there's a flag in Firefox where you just go use the Windows 10 certificate store. And they're now apparently setting this flag automatically. This is Bleeping Computer reporting on that. I think they discovered this story, so it's there's a bug report in Firefox in there, basically. We're now experimenting with that and should be able to turn that on at some point. So Microsoft Mozilla kind of giving up this, we want to control all the certificates for, compatibility reasons, which I guess is a very Microsoft thing to do. And that's pretty much it. Got another security story and then 2 gaming stories, and then we're done for today. Today's actually been, looking at the tech news so far, yesterday, today, been really quiet compared to when the year started. I was like, when I started the show for quite a while, I was like, oh, it's quiet. on the tech news front, but it has picked up. I think we can say that there's been a lot of things going on recently, and now looks like this bit of a quiet time. It's also like all the PR companies, I guess, are winding down because of April the 1st. You don't want any PR. Don't want to launch anything close to April the 1st, I guess. But here I have a story on the Register, which I've also found kind of interesting, a security story where so somebody is spreading the Christchurch manifesto together with a payload that will thrash the master boot record on that system, which also I'm guessing it's not only the MBR. I'm guessing it's doing it for more modern boot, UEFI based boot stuff as well. But I loved the Register. The Register's saying, while the manifesto, a meme-laden soup of troll-tastic nihilistic nonsense, has been outlawed in New Zealand for inciting murder and terrorism, the file continues to circulate in underground forums. I love that just like countries, just like Germany does this as well, like outlaw that, right? That's as if that's gonna help anything. And if it's so troll-tastic and nonsense, then let people see how dumb these idiots are. But anyway, it looks like those are, as the Register says, hacktivists, because spreading this malware, I think they just wanna thrash, right-leaning people's computers that want to look at this manifesto, because they changed the name of the perpetrator to Maori in the manifesto, and the thing will download a payload called Haka, Haka, of course, being that traditional Maori dance, and then it kills your boot record, reboots your computer, and then you have a phrase on screen that says, "This is not us." This is a phrase people have been using to kind of combat this, this racism stuff, saying that, this is not New Zealand. This is not who we are. We are a tolerant country. We don't want violence like this. I just wanted to report on this. Interesting. I'm always wary of this kind of stuff because as a journalist, you can get into situations where you have to, research certain things, and then it is conceivable that you could get that malware. As the Register points out in the end, basically, consult your operating system's recovery and repair tools to rebuild your MBR if for some reason you're hit by this malware. Like the Register basically saying, if for some reason you're a Nazi. I don't know. I thought that was hilarious. In the end, some gaming news. If you a gamer on Linux, which is a hard lot for the most part, you're probably happy that Valve some time ago created something called Proton, which is like a wine. I don't know. It's kind of like, it's a bit like a wrapper around wine. It's supposed to make wine really usable, like in Steam, so that you can just play Windows games, and it seems to work quite well. And they've updated it now, so it has. It's now based, Proton 4.2 is now based on Wine 4.2, which brings some improvements to, Vulkan compatibility and DirectX 12. And also interesting, I mean, they're working with Codeweavers, so the guys that are doing Wine, and, the Wine developers are putting patches up in the main line that result from stuff they fix for Valve. Basically, they put in the Wine in the main version so that people just use Wine on its own can benefit from that as well, which is kind of nice. So if you're a Linux gamer, that is some good news. And if you're just a gamer, like me, an old school gamer, there's some more good news because you might remember Warcraft. And, classic, maybe some consider the classic of the RTS genre. I was always more of a Command and Conquer fan because for me, Warcraft and StarCraft was always like Warcraft was obvious Warhammer ripoff, StarCraft obviously being the 40k ripoff. But I have played it. I was playing it as a young gamer. So now I'm quite kind of happy that GOG, Good Old Games, GOG.com has published Warcraft 1 and 2 in a DRM-free version. Warcraft 1 for €5.29, Warcraft 2 8.89, together €13.29, and you have for Warcraft 2 you have two versions you can choose from. The classic one, that's SVGA resolution, actually has BattleNet. You can do multiplayer over BattleNet, or there's like a reworked version which doesn't have this BattleNet. It only has LAN multiplayer, but has like graphics improvements. It can upscale and stuff like that. Warcraft 2 includes Tides of Darkness and Beyond the Dark Portal. Pretty cool. Runs on Windows 7, 8, and 10. And Warcraft 1 also on macOS, which is pretty cool. I love that. This is my ex-colleague, Martin Fischer, who loves Warcraft, so I know why he wrote this story. I love that in the end he's going system requirements. You need like a 1 gigahertz processor and 2 gigabytes of RAM. I can see his face smiling while he wrote that. I love that he even bothered. It's like, Martin, if you're watching this, hello. I got a kick out of that. Warcraft 3 is actually Blizzard is working on a kind of remastered version. They've been saying, together with coffee. My brain's not working. Wait, rebooting the system. Together with Frozen Throne, they are at the moment they're selling it at Battle.net, but this remastered version is coming out as well. It's actually, whoa, is that the remastered version? So I guess they're already, oh god, now I have to tell them how old I am. Okay, not to lie. We are committed to the truth here. I'm quite old. Here we go. So, okay, it's not out yet. So it's supposed to come later this year. So this is the remastered version of Warcraft 3. Oh god, I love the sheep. That they're working on that. So that won't be on GOG. That will be in the Blizzard store. Warcraft 3 Reforged. Pretty cool. I might pick all of these up. I mean, those two games for what is it? €13.29. Can't go wrong with that. I think Warcraft's still a great game. I replayed Command and Conquer like about a year or two ago, and I was surprised how playable that was. Like, often you play games that age and you're like, what the hell? So Jonathan says, that's actually amazing. That was a beautiful story when I was a teenager. Warcraft 3. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a milestone of PC gaming and gaming in general, isn't it? Anyway, that's it for me. And that's it for this week, for Tech News for this week. I hope you have a good rest of a Friday. Have a nice weekend. And, just take it easy on April the 1st. Don't believe anything you read. And I'll see you next week. I know next week I'm going on a bit of a holiday now. So until then, I'll be back not to worry. I'm not killing the show. I'm just taking a bit of a break. So see you next week. Worst case, the week after. Until then, so say we all.